After the colossal undertaking that was last week's Can You Beat Fallout 4's Abraham Lincoln challenge, I wanted to take things back a bit and tackle something a little easier and a lot shorter. Weapon restricted runs are honestly some of my favourites, as it's always fun to mess around with something that you've probably never used before. Well, in today's case, it's not so much a weapon as a tool, as today I figure out, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only the H&H Tools nail gun? First off, now that we have gotten the excessively long official name of the weapon out of the way, we can just refer to it as the nail gun going forward. The nail gun has a fairly low base damage and initially seems like more of a joke weapon. However, its real strength lies in its speed, as it can fire a full round of 90 nails in only a few seconds. This of course gives it an incredibly high DPS, so light armor targets will no doubt be melted by the tool in seconds. Heavily armored opponents may prove to be a bit of a hassle, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. For once, I don't create the usual Nerbit, but rather take a moment to construct a somewhat fitting character. The idea behind the name and face was for him to look like Bob the Builder, but if I'm going to be honest, the idea for this got dropped pretty much the instant that I left Doc Mitchell's house. For my special stats, I went with a focus on intelligence, agility, and endurance. Intelligence for maximum skill points per level, which is always nice to have, endurance for more health to help me out in longer than normal combat encounters, and then agility, because VATS may or may not be helpful. For my tag skills, I go with guns, repair, and speech. Speech will be needed to get access to what I believe is the single largest batch of nails, so it's a must in my eyes, and then guns and repair as they will help me to get the most damage out of the weapon as possible, and I think I'll be relying on weapon repair kits to keep the nail gun in a decent condition until I hit level 14 anyway and can take the jury rigging perk. Finally for traits, I just go with skilled and fast shot. I figured that if the tool's main strength is its high fire rate, why not make it even faster? Well, after I get control, I go to open my Pip-Boy and the game immediately crashes. It's good to be back playing New Vegas. Starting back up, I just pick all the same special stats and skills as before, and for my own peace of mind, save the game once it's all set up, so I won't need to do this for a third time. I immediately head down to Chet's, and I am appalled at the fact he does not have any leather armor to steal, and instead I must actually buy some for a change. So, the thing about the nail gun that I have yet to mention is that it only shows up in the Lonesome Road DLC, so against my better judgment, the first place I'm heading is the Divide. Fortunately, the run there is danger-free, bar the occasional gecko or coyote. But let's be honest with ourselves, if they posed any kind of problem to me, I probably wouldn't be considering beating the game with a nail gun. Lucky for us, you don't have to go very far to get one. As soon as I make it into the Hopeville silo, I can wake up Eddie, and after he restores power to the place, we can head into the very next room and procure one from a nearby toolbox, along with a handful of nails. As mentioned, the fire rate of this thing is so crazy that it guzzles through ammo like nothing else, so the 9-inch nails I got with it will most certainly not be enough. With a repair skill of 50, you can craft your own nails with scrap metal. That said though, each piece of scrap metal only gets you 5 nails, so again, not exactly a long-term solution. In other words, I am just going to need to find vendors who sell them in bulk, and currently I can think of 3 places. The first one is the commissary in the room where I found Eddie, and thanks to selling all of the nearby items, mainly the arc welder, I'm able to afford all 1,179 nails that the machine has for sale. That should be more than enough to keep me going for the time being, so it was back to the Mojave to put the tool to good use. My first victims are some coyotes I fixed near the canyon wreckage, but they aren't exactly the best way to gauge the weapon's effectiveness, so on that note I ventured down into Prim and got ready to nail some convicts. That is another thing I forgot to mention, the nail gun does increased limb damage, so even though I won't be taking the Bloody Mess perk, for reasons, there still may be an abundance of limbs falling off seemingly at random. Chances are this may get age restricted, but aside from making every combat encounter look like this, there's not a whole lot I can do about that unfortunately. Let's not get caught up on a sour note though, the rest of the convicts inside the Bison Steve Hotel had no clue how to counteract my nails of death, partially because the tool is nearly silent, allowing me to pick them off without being spotted. Despite this, I never even considered going with a stealth focus build. Probably would have been a good idea seeing how I plan to side with the Legion today. I figured I might as well, as I do side with them the least. This is mainly because General Oliver and a few NCR heavies aren't nearly as fun to fight as the Legate and his cronies. Thing is, I still want to have an accepted relationship with the NCR, as this allows me to pass a 50 speech check with Quartermaster Barton, who just so happens to be the Mojave's #1 nail collector, and therefore my main lifeline for the run. Well, the fastest way to get into the NCR's good graces is to give them Prim, along with solving all of their problems at the Mojave outpost, so I go and do just that. A few more gang members and even some rad scorpions tried to slow me down on the way there, but Bob was just not having any of it, as I stuck each and every one of them to the sidewalk. Jackson's aunts don't fare much better, but they are a great source of experience, so I even go a little out of my way to hunt down some of their nearby cousins, as I have now begun to realise how badly I wish to reach level 14. While the Mojave outpost, I thought it would be a good idea to check how much it would cost to have the nail gun repaired, as after all, Major Knight has a repair skill of 100 and can fully restore any armor or weapon. Yeah, no, I ain't paying that much, so I guess weapon repair kits will be my crutch going forward to make sure I don't immediately run out of money. Anyway, I make it to Nipton, and after offering my kind regards to the locals, have a nice albeit brief chat with Teals before reporting back to the outpost and turning in all of my quests for Volpe's, Ghost and Ranger Jackson, and then from there convinced Major Knight to send aid to Prim, bumping me up to just below accepted reputation. With my tasks around Prim complete, I was planning to head back to Good Springs and make my way to the Gunrunners by way of Black Mountain, but while I was back in town, I figured I could help the townsfolk out with their problem by giving the Powder Gangers a one-time lesson in construction destruction. Going in depth here would just be a waste of words. If you run up to me wearing nothing but your small clothes, you can almost guarantee the nails are going to rip straight through you within a few seconds, which is exactly what happened to all of the Powder Gangers. With Good Springs saved for the time being, I make my way for Sloan, and thanks to my average medicine and godly repair skills, I can fix both Snuffles and the generator for a few more good boy points. Still not enough to get me accepted, mind you, so alas, I will still need to find another way to help out. Taking out the bark scorpions and marking Hidden Valley on the map will help me out later, but as for right now, I just push on through to Black Mountain, and due to being somewhat reckless, end up getting spotted by the mutants, and rather than run, I decide to stand my ground and fight. It was me against 2 normal super mutants, a brute, and 1 nightkin. The good thing about super mutants is that while they may have access to some pretty decent weapons and have a somewhat decent health pool, the fact of the matter is they have almost next to no armor, so while it may take a little longer to drain them of their life force than say your common raider or rat scorpions, they ultimately will just meet the same fate in the end. This was also when I noticed one of the major strengths of the nail gun was not so much outright killing people, but disabling them. Due to its high limb damage, it was a viable strategy to cripple someone's limbs to slow them down, or if I focused on their torso, could potentially stun lock someone indefinitely until they just couldn't take it anymore. The fast fire rate also made it exceptional at destroying or disarming weapons, something that began to happen quite frequently with healthy opponents going forward. For the time being, that wasn't really at the forefront of my mind, but rather I would need to resupply, as despite having over 1,000 nails at the beginning, after my battle with the super mutants, I am left with only 80 nails, which isn't even a full reload. Without any more distractions, I made my way through the shortcut and began heading north from the Repcon building all the way up to the Gunrunners. Sadly, there was no way they were going to be my primary source of ammo, as on this visit, they only had 468 nails. Considering how fast I went through 1,000 of them, I would be coming back here after every couple of encounters, which would just be far too time consuming. So getting that NCR rep was now priority number 1, and luckily, I know exactly where to go. It's off to Boulder City, and for once, not to commit war crimes, I know, shocker, but rather to settle matters peacefully with the Khans and the NCR. I would have just killed the Khans, but they'll be working with Caesar later, so I may as well have a somewhat decent reputation with them as well. Sure enough, once they've made nice, I can convince the NCR to not shoot the unarmed Khans. It's as if they have not learnt anything from the whole Bitter Springs incident, and then I get accepted, and from there can make my way to Hoover Dam. As mentioned, I have to pass a level 50 speech check with Bart and have access to his ammo, which I thankfully do, and I am absolutely flabbergasted at the sheer amount of nails he has for sale. I was expecting somewhere around 4,000 max, not frickin' 12,000. Regardless, that's a major stress taken off of my mind, as I know I'll never need to worry about running out of nails ever again. Truth be told, I don't even have anywhere near enough caps to buy them all, so for the time being I take whatever I can get, which totals to somewhere around 3,000, which should definitely be more than enough. While I'm here, I also make a quick armor upgrade by stealing the nearby Chinese stealth suits. They don't have the invisibility crouch feature from Fallout 3, which is a shame, but they do offer more protection than my leather armor, so it's still the better choice. Heading for Vegas would be the smart play so I could confront Benny and get the ball rolling on meeting the Legion, but as I have demonstrated before, the best way to do things, at least if you're planning to save time, is deal with all the factions before meeting Caesar, as while the run up to the fort and then into Caesar's tent admittedly isn't that long, it does become rather irritating the 5th or 6th time you've had to do it in the span of 20 minutes. What this means is it's time to gather those Brotherhood holotapes, so it's back to Hidden Valley where I proceed to fix the nearby Centaur mutant problem, the only way I know how. I take the power armor and Tabitha's super sledge, as one will be worth a lot of money and the other will be great for fixing up my own power armor later. While I can get into the bunker now, it makes the most sense just to head in and deal with them once I've gotten all 3, so that's what I opt to do. For whatever reason, I completely bypassed the Repcon building and went straight for Nellis. And I have no idea why.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
Arriving at Nellis and I get to work helping the boomers. I figure it's going to be a full out massacre when I get to the strip, as I'll be taking advantage of the fact that none of the casino's guards wear armor at all, and considering I have to destroy the Brotherhood for Caesar, I guess I may as well spread some kindness and actually help out at least one faction today. I made sure to put enough points into medicine and repair to help out the patients for Argyle and fix Loyal's solar panels. I then listened and questioned Pete about their people's history before playing pin the nail on the ant for Raquel down in the exploding funhouse. All of this, along with some missiles that I took from the Nightkin sniper back on Black Mountain, allowed me to become idolized, and therefore, it's time for a rather quick dip in the ocean that is thankfully not irradiated, so that I may give these explosive nutjobs a bomber that honestly no one else in the Mojave has any real way of countering should they go rogue. Certain that the boomers were now my friends and would not blow me up, I grabbed the holotape from the remains of the Brotherhood near the airport, and then finally made my way up into the Repcon building, where I was less than pleasant to the robots inside, simply because I didn't want to take the tour. With the final holotape in hand, I return to Hidden Valley one final time, and begin to plan how exactly I'm going to go about taking down the Brotherhood with a nail gun. Well, first off, I have to deal with Dobson, because Veronica is not a nail gun, and therefore cannot be brought along to skip this part of the quest. Naturally, I just persuade him to leave, as I'm not risking my nail supply for the Brotherhood by murdering him in cold blood and losing my rep points. Once he's gone, I head down and speak with McNamara, and instantly hand over all the tapes so that I may proceed to the next part of the quest. The thing is, I do want power armor training, because if I want to stand a chance at fighting the Brotherhood, I'll probably need to at least be on the same level as them defensively. That said, there is absolutely no point in going through with McNamara's side of things, as you only need to do all of that if you want to side with the NCR, so rather, I pull the old switcheroo and agree to help out Hardin with his little coup. This involves talking to Ramos, isolating a virus, checking the terminal for a record, talking to Ramos again, and then finally reporting back to Hardin to promote him to Elder. He then tasks me with taking out the Van Graffs as my final test to be granted membership and power armor training, and I go and do just that. Now, the easiest way to go about this is just agree to stand guard for them, and then let the bomber enter as he takes out everyone bar Simon, meaning it's a simple one-on-one fight. I, however, did this the difficult way by just running straight up and blasting away recklessly without a care in the world. Not gonna lie, not my brightest move by any stretch of the imagination, but somehow it got results. It's mainly down to a few things. 1, I stocked up on stim packs before heading to Hidden Valley, as I'm not an idiot. 2, none of them wear helmets, so their heads are squishy and ripe for the taking. And 3, as soon as I took down the first one, I took their combat armor, and therefore could withstand more punishment than my Chinese stealth suit. You may think that this is going to cost an absurd amount of nails, and you would be correct. So it's a really good thing that all of the Van Graff stock is just sitting here, waiting to be sold. Returning to Hardin, I am granted training and a membership card, and just like most people, will never use it again after today. I fix up the armor he gives me with the suits I grabbed from the dead Brotherhood members earlier, and immediately got to work dispatching any and all Brotherhood who got in my way. Hardin, having downgraded from his power armor, is as easy as it gets, and in all honesty, his 2 guards aren't all that tough either. This is where the whole disarming people thing really came in handy. By focusing on shooting people in the torso, a majority of my shots would also hit their weapons, causing them to fly out of their hands if they were not just outright destroyed by the nail bombardment. Oddly enough, when using the nail gun in VATS, the damage indicator never seems to consider the armor that my enemies are wearing, as it always tells me a few VATS shots to the head will be more than enough to put them out of their misery. But sadly, that is rarely the case. I make sure to take out McNamara as well now that he's been demoted before dispatching head scribe Taggart and setting the base to blow. I still make sure to fight and kill every member on the way out though, mainly because it was necessary, as on my first attempt to leave without doing so, I ended up in a situation like this. While being backed into a corner here was ultimately what got me killed, it was still the wisest strategy in the lower levels, as I lured scribes, initiates and paladins into one of the bathrooms and took them out one at a time. It takes quite a while, but really it's my only option, as waiting outside is liable to get me reduced to dust thanks to the extremely powerful turrets. After the last one goes down, I make my way for the exit, all the while spamming the stim pack button, as again, even with my new fully repaired suit of power armor, these turrets just rip right through me. I am able to make it back outside though, ending the Brotherhood, my biggest threat of the run, and can now head to the casinos to have some fun. First up is the tops, and as expected, the fancier the suit, the quicker the kill. Coming straight from Hidden Valley, this is a very cathartic experience to witness, as they all just crumble before the nail gun. The speed and inaccuracy of fast shot really proves its worth here, as despite the fact I'm aiming for people's torsos, more often than not the spread of the nails causes their legs to walk right off of their bodies. Not complaining, unintentionally crippling their legs makes hunting them down all the easier. Benny didn't know what hit him. Like, literally, he didn't seem to notice the carnage unfolding in his very casino, and even when I did unload into him, it all happened so fast that he wasn't able to turn around and see me. With the chairman gone and the chip in hand, I meet with Yes Man, just in case I mess things up with the Legion, and then begin carving a path through the white gloves. Again, I know that I'm meant to forge an alliance between them and the Legion, but I really do not care and would much rather have the enjoyment and experience of watching them all run in fear from the super soldier who is so confident in his abilities he is willing to attempt to shift the power balance of Vegas with nothing but a cheap tool. I was going to need caps for more nails soon, so I paid House a visit next, and after turning in some snow globes I grabbed from the boomers in Hoover Dam, began reworking the components of the nearby Securitrons. Like the vampire he is, I deliver what is essentially a superpowered stake to Mr. Hart's house. Nope! Like the vampire he is, I deliver what is essentially a superpowered stake to Mr. House's heart, ending his reign, and could now have some fun with the Omertas. I understand it really hasn't been that long since my last New Vegas video, but few things fill me with as much joy as entering Gomorrah and just letting loose until either there are no more people alive or I've run out of bullets. I also reached level 14 during the massacre, allowing me to grab the jury rigging perk, and therefore I don't need to worry about my weapon's condition any longer, as it can now be restored with any one-handed firearm, which conveniently, the Omertas have in spades. So really, coming here to relieve them of their weapons was a required part of the run. It may not seem like it, but that's us in the endgame now, as once I make my way to the fort and meet the big cheese, I head down into the bunker, and I am frankly quite shocked by how quickly I can take out the Protectrons and turrets. I do not blow up the generators though, but rather I activate the Securitrons, again, just in case I somehow get on Caesar's bad side. From here I report my success to him, and between him congratulating me he takes time to buffer, before eventually tasking me with getting rid of his tumour. One trip to the New Vegas clinic later, and it's time for me to perform the surgery. I like to imagine that I'm doing this with a nail gun for maximum immersion. Now with a few more nails in his head than before, I am tasked with finding the NCR new president by getting rid of its current one. I meet up with Kato outside of Memorial Town and he hands me a disguise that I somewhat put to good use. Really, it's on them that they aren't suspicious of the one NCR soldier wearing a power helmet. I had a fairly straightforward two-part plan for the assassination. First, I would enter the tower and relieve it of the sniper so that I would not have my head blown off from a distance. And then secondly, I would walk right up to the president, equip to my power armor, and then gun him down. Not only does this work, but in my opinion, it should really throw a wrench in their plans, as now it looks like the Brotherhood have come out of hiding and have assassinated their president, leaving the Legion ample time to prepare and assault the dam. I was planning to fight my way out, and that was the case with a few of the soldiers, but most of them ended up cowering, and those that didn't, like Ranger Stevens, simply just decided to not exist in our plane of reality anymore. Works for me, I suppose. I returned to Caesar, and now it is time to take Hoover Dam. Fighting across the top of the dam is actually one of the easiest encounters of the run, and I'm not even exaggerating. Most of the NCR troopers here drop stim packs when they go down, so even if they hurt me, I won't be lacking any healing supplies. As for them, well, their armor isn't the most protective thing in the world, so the nail gun is still able to tear through them quite easily. A fair amount of them also carry pistols, so another benefit is I don't need to worry about repairs, as I just grab any and all one-handed firearms I see, and take them with me should I need them in the fight against Oliver. Speaking of, let's skip ahead, as that's when things actually got somewhat interesting. The Rangers in the room with all the traps were by far the strongest opponents yet. Not really surprising as they have a bunch of stim packs to heal themselves with, along with anti-material rifles that do indeed destroy my armor after only a few shots. The trick to beating them was something that I mentioned near the beginning of the video. By standing right in front of them and firing into either their torsos or their head, I could cripple them rather quickly, and from there, the unrelenting non-stop volley of nails would stun lock them until either they died or I ran out of ammo. And as you can imagine, one of those things is more likely than the other. You may be thinking that surely they can break free when I reload. Well, I thought so too, but turns out I reload the gun so fast that in the end, it just doesn't matter. This strategy is also what I used on the NCR heavies that are guarding Oliver, although for them, since there was a lot more of them in a smaller area, I had to play the most boring game of Pac-Man first as I lured them around the corridors and slowly picked off a few of them, or at the very least, got rid of their weapons. Well, what of General Oliver, I hear you ask? Well, for a lack of a better way to put it, he got John Marston the instant he opened those doors. After my war of attrition with the last of the heavies was finished, I met back up with the Legate, finishing the game, and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas with the H&H Tools nail gun. Like I said, a nice, quick and refreshing run, something I honestly needed after the marathon that was the Lincoln video. I know some people said for me to just take this week off, but honestly, it's okay. I just needed a shorter video to get me back into the swing of things, so to speak. Don't think I'll be doing another video that long for a while. Probably whenever I get to that eventual Metal Gear video, though. Regardless, that's going to be the end of this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like, and if you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. Try one of these videos out every week. My name is Nerbit. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see y'all in the next video.